He's already done all the like the hardcore bondage that Jake utilized for to build up the wealth, all the death and destruction and beating Jake's identity out of him. He's gained from that. Now he's looking to just maintain that gain without any judgment taking place. But hey, it's gonna be flipped. The punishment, he's gonna have to eat it, man. He ain't gonna be able to escape it. He ain't gonna be able to run. And that's it's peak. Because that's, you can tell everything Esau's doing now, he's trying to avoid the punishment. So here's a little more on Obadiah. 1 and 16. For ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen then drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. Yeah, that's the end goal, the end result of that punishment that gets brought against Esau. It's going to be that he's not been. He's going to what is it? Well, further in the chapter, Esau's going to be consumed. After his 1,000 years are up, he's going to cease to be, man. And that's it. When you go to, Proverbs 16:4, the wicked was made for the day of evil. Esau's got his role to play. And that's why it's like righteous judgment. That's not a thing that you can go to Esau for. Order, justice, these things don't exist in this modern day, in this society. Justice is not a thing that exists. This is about wickedness, perpetual wickedness that just is in a cycle that never ends. Because that's the purpose of this place. How was it set up? You go to how America was set up, how the West was set up. Blood, and that's something that, going back to the books of the law, it said, if a place is built of blood, then what? It's only going to be able to be cleansed by blood. And that's something that Esau has. Now, Esau has the what's it called, the death sentence. Capital punishment, that's the one. Capital punishment is something that Esau administers, but then when it comes to Heavenly Father, then we're meant to just throw that out the window. And that's how Esau gets down. He's basically, because he's trying to just be like, okay, don't deal with any of that scripture, don't deal with any of the Bible, but you deal with his laws. You engage with his system.
So deep dive and look at one scripture and I found it.
For upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possession. Yeah, upon Mount Zion is going to be deliverance, and that again is why this word, this truth, is only for that one nation. It's not something where you can just all of a sudden slice in everyone to then get a piece of salvation. That don't make no sense, because all throughout the scriptures it's Israel, Israel, Israel. Then the guy is just going to read Acts 10 and say, look, it said, cool, nothing unclean. Okay, but then do you understand?
So can you eat shit then?
Yeah. Because we're going to be doing Haiti again real soon. Because what was I was going to say? With nothing unclean. So then that means what is you, and you had the guys where it says, okay, you can be a homosexual then. No. But then what's the where are you going to? Where's the proof for that? Where's your backing? You have to go to the laws. And if you go into the laws, then it's like, okay, well, why are you following some, but others don't matter?
And that's the thing. But even you have the other thing as well, like it says in the word, can you bring the clean thing from the unclean, from something unclean basically? And the answer is no. So when you go into the law, it tells you about Moab and Ammon. I can't remember the law specifically, but how that they shall never enter into the congregation, to the temple. Like, basically, there's no way they can come in the congregation, basically.
And you had with Balaam. Yeah, Balaam, when he was like, I wish my end, I want my end to be the end of the righteous. Because he knows that's who's gonna get the end.
And what did he prophesy of? He prophesied of a time that hasn't been happened yet.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet.
When did Israel smite the corners of Moab?
Yeah.
Hey, that's the thing is these prophecies they're still yet to be fulfilled. And as far as for this, it's all lining up for Jacob. You go to Revelation, and then it says what you read Psalms 2. It says, "Ask of me, and I'll give thee the heathen for thine inheritance." Then you go.
Go on.
Then you go to Revelation. This is what you receive your heathen drills onto the end.
Chapter. Yeah.
Then you receive that scepter, and then what? You're gonna be kabooming the heathen over the head.
And what does it say in the book of Jeremiah 4:7? It says, "The lion has come about is wicked, the destroyer of the Gentiles." So that's talking about Yahweh Shai. So when did that happen?
And then they say, oh, but the Gentiles, there's no Jew or Greek. But then, okay, what's the significance of why they're talking about Greek? Hellenes, Hellenistas. Why is it specifically for the Greeks? That's why you need to know history. That's why you need to the Apocrypha lays out plainly.
And that's why it was Greek.
You had Jakes that were going out, joining onto the heathen. It's always all throughout. You go into Revelation, this is why they have to bring out spiritual Jews. Why? Where are the 12 gates for? What tribes? Where's the gates for Moab? But that's why you have the outer court, because the heathen weren't involved. How's there going to be an outer court if it's only, everyone can join in? Okay, then why would there need to be an outer court? And these are things. This is why it's like when you deal with the scriptures, really a lot of guys have no clue
what it's talking about. Let me read this. Romans 2:25. For circumcision verily profiteth, if thou keep the law. But if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision. Right? And we can get into the example right after this in the book of Maccabees, man, and we can show you that. Because that's why the book of Romans, funny enough, pertains to the Israelites that basically were the Hebrews that were in the land of Rome. Right? In the land of Rome, or in the Roman Empire, so to speak. Right? It pertains to them. But what was that period known as? What was that period known as? What was that period known as during the course of history? The Greco-Roman Empire. Because why? It's compounded one and the same. When you deal with the way the Greeks conducted their rulership, it's the same as Roman. Their gods are interchangeable. Jupiter and Zeus, right? So on and so forth. I don't know them off the top of my brain. But they're all interchangeable because why? That kingdom was Esau's rulership, basically, right? It's all the same. And the main thing is when you go to the book of Maccabees, it shows you about the course of history of how they became uncircumcised, and that's how it flowed from the Hellenization of our people into the Romanization of the people. That's why when Yahweh Shai was on the crucifix, what did they have? You had Hebrew, Greek, and Latin, right? Because why? They had been oppressed by those nations, and they took on their customs. That's why the man like Timothy, that his father was a Greek, but his mother was an Israelite, a Jew, right? But what does that mean? Does that mean there was a difference in color? No, it was a difference in culture, right? The way they were cultivated through their lifetime. Just like today, we're in the land of England, man. Grew up in the East End, speaking like what?
And then even if you compare it on a carnal sense, like you have, for example, the West Indians back in the islands versus the ones who were raised here, on the west coast of Africa, who were raised there versus here. When you go over there, they'll treat you like a foreigner. They'll say, "Oh, London boy," or whatever.
And this is how deep it is. We're like, how you say it? I think we're first generation. The first generation begins with our grandparents. Yeah, our grandparents. Then you got our parents, well, mainly our farmers grew up with wood hair. So basically, ties to our so-called homeland is non-existent for us. If I meet someone that's their parents come over here and they're born here, or their parents come over here and they come over here with their parents, they're gonna look at you like, nah, you're not one of us, man. You act like a Jamaican, or you act with this and that. Nah, I act black British. So you can only imagine what generations of Hellenization, Romanization of the children of Israel would look like, man. You might as well read in the book of Maccabees. You want to read it?
Yeah.
The book of Maccabees. Because that'll let you know to what extent we let off from our culture, the Israelites let off from their culture and custom.
Let's start from this. First Maccabees 1:9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so that their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus.
And this is talking about when Alexander of Macedonia, right, who they call great, who basically got risen up according to prophecy in the book of Daniel to basically like impose foolishness on the earth, right? So he died, and then he basically had these men come up in power after him. And that's the Sabaeus, Samson, Ptolemy, and Cassandra. They basically bear his rule and took portions of his kingdom and continued to rule.
And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surname Epiphanes,
which come out of the Seleucid line. He came out of the line of basically was known as Syria. They called it Syria back then, which basically pertains to, you know, the land of Syria, Israel, and basically going into the Nile, that kind of portion, basically, the Middle East. So they had rulership over that place, alright? And even a wicked root that was risen up, part of the prophecy of the king of the north and the king of the south, in Daniel the 11th chapter, right?
we got into the wars. But after it was split into four, it was, I don't even know how many years, a very short time. Then like they
Ptolemy tried to,
expanded, and then Seleucus expanded.
Yeah.
Then as their kids went down,
And they become
They
known
went
as
to
the
war, yeah.
Antiochus, you know.
the
they
Seleucid
carry-
line, and then the Ptolemaic
yeah,
line.
yeah.
And it was like based around Egypt, and that's where you had like the Egypt being Hellenized,
Yeah.
and that's why you have those white, you know, the white, the
Like
history
Cleopatra
what,
and all that type of stuff.
you know, the Greeks and Roman. That's why Alexandria is called Alexandria. And these
Like a
things,
slot.
these bits of history, and that's the thing is people don't know about like different conquests, different nations, different origins of why, like, that's why you mentioned Egypt. And someone said, oh well, you just got like the Arabs there now. So it would have just been, that would have been like that, you know, like 2,000 years ago.
No, it
Meanwhile, even if you go into the history of England, like just England alone, in like the
They'll
last
tell you, man.
1,000 years,
Yeah, they'll tell you.
might have been repeat conquered over and over by all kinds of different tribes. And they'll tell you all the history, oh, this tribe and that tribe, then the Normans come, and then this thingy, and this what happened, then after that, this different line took over.
Yeah.
There's all kinds, like, so you know it's, okay, all these different nations, but they all just look the same. But that's something that people don't think about, because that's again covering the images, because people will look at they've got Hollywood just pumping out any historical time period. It's going to be Esau that's being represented within it.
And even, hey, we're not too far away from what's this place called? What's it over there, Big Ben? Parliament, where you actually had a terrorist attack that was plotted by the Rosicrucians, right, the Catholic Church, to basically consolidate power for them to. No, I know you talking about King James.
No, the guy who did it.
Oliver Cromwell. No, you're talking about Guy Fawkes. So Guy Fawkes basically come in, and he had the plotter basically was found out. But basically the reason why I mentioned this is because the the man that was born after King James was known as Charles, man. Black boy. Right? Stuart. So his grandson. Charles II, known as Black boy. So that's someone, when you go into history, that's evident. But this was a few hundred years ago.
He was described as a tall black man.
And that's why they called him Black boy.
Yeah.
So it's evident in history. Guess what? People are not accustomed, they're not aware of these things.
Don't know history. And that's the thing.
That's a couple hundred years.
Yeah, and the lies have been spread. Because that's the thing is, black folks, they're celebrating. Who said, like, why is there not a celebration for 9/11? The same, wear masks of the guys who, did 9/11, and then celebrate, that they were just rebelling against America. That's because that's like that's why it's people really don't check out nothing. Because you think about it, like, oh, why are you celebrating Guy Fawkes?
That tried to take out your king.
Yeah.
That's how I celebrate
that's why.
Taliban trying to take out, or any of the terrorist attacks that happened on like 7/7, for example.
Yeah. Because that's but it's why, because those that were in power, it was one I think it was Jakes. It was Jakes in power. It was the enemies of the current power system. That's who was up there. That's what. That's the thing. Look, he's subtle, man. He's a wily serpent, and he gets.
Yes. You ain't saying that.
Yeah, he didn't say too bad. Because a lot of the history, no one really knows what went down. Even going back to the time of the Greeks and the Romans, it's Jake's being up in there, people don't know the history. But hey, look, it's the same thing. It's like with all these nations, they will, whenever land was getting conquered,
Get back to
and there came out a wicked group, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage of Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days when there are Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." So this device pleased them well. So there's a historical account of Jakes going out, and joining themselves onto the heathen, and basically becoming partaking amongst these sorts of systems. And that's the same thing you've got going down in the modern day. That's something you've seen amongst all these kingdoms. Because going back to Egypt's the original one. Egypt's become a huge.
I'm guessing Sabi Care. I think it might be that direction. I don't think there's more activity up there as opposed to down there.
Yeah, Egypt's been one of the main ones. To this day, Egypt is still a place Jake's mind gets all entangled up, with that Egyptian way of life. And that's why it's bound their minds, man. It says what? In those days when Israel wicked men, I already read. Okay. So verse 12. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. And that's what you have in the modern day as well. Just as in the time of the Greeks, you had them making sacrifices onto Zeus. They would have been, sacrificing swine's flesh They would have been getting up until the what's it called, the Olympics, all those. Because the Olympics is a religious ceremony. Because that's the whole. What's his name? Prometheus stealing fire from the gods and giving it to men.
That's how it's every year. Like even this one that's being celebrated right now.
They always have a talk.
Yeah, that's the ceremony. That's the custom. Ceremonial custom to basically, light the fire in Olympus of Greece, and it basically carried the fire around the whole earth. Basically, I believe it's like bringing light to the whole earth. And you're bringing civilization. That's how. Esau bringing his light, illuminating the world in his light of darkness.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem. We can stop raining.
It's not steady. It's still raining, but it's like how,
Oh, yeah.
It's not heavy the way it was for.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen.
Place of exercise, basically talking about the gym. Because when you go back in the time of Greeks, the word gym, as we have it in the modern day, goes back to the Greek, which basically is gymnos. And the word gymnos means naked. That's why you had in the Olympics of old, everyone basically performed whatever they did, the sport, naked, right? When you go back to the sculptures that they have of them, boxing, discus, Pan-Christian, which is the modern day MMA, and mind you, that shows you that the two main blood schools of today is basically boxing and MMA. And when you go back to the time of the Olympics, what was it? It was boxing and Pan-Christian. Pan-Christian basically being MMA, right? So all the things are just being this kingdoms of regeneration of everything that was back then, right? And basically had that same shit happening today. That happens today. I mean, the same shit that was happening back then is happening today. I think you can jump down to that 45 where it talks about that everyone should come together and let up from their laws.
Yeah. Well, okay, one more verse. So verse 15, and they made. Okay, let me stop. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
Now that even once you get circumcised, there's no way you can uncircumcise yourself. That's why it talks about the word talks about the circumcision of the heart, right? Because it's a spiritual thing.
That was circumcision was that covenant was made. That's really what it represents, that special relationship between Israel and Yahweh Hashem Yahshai. So as such, that's that's what it's a part of. That's why it's not a custom of the heathen. That's why you've got people now among Esau's kingdom saying, oh, it's what do you call it? Maiming of children or something like that.
Oh yeah. Like this configuration. Yeah. Let me read this quickly. It's actually in Romans where I was reading, but I'll read it to the point. Romans 2:29. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and it's the point. And circumcision is that of the heart, all right? Which we know the heart. When you go back to the Hebrew word love, which means mind, it's a circumcision of the mind. So you have to be in your mind. Your mind has to be attuned to the Heavenly Father, because your mind is the house of what? The Spirit. So you have to be walking in the Spirit, and that's where the circumcision is. That's why it says that circumcision is that of the heart, in the Spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of the Most High.
Yeah, so verse 41, well, First Maccabees 1:41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to the whole kingdom that they should all be one people. That's the same spirit you got out today. That melting pot will turn into one spirit, where everyone's meant to come and be in accord in the same spirit. And that's, you have it running. All the nations that come over here, they start wearing jeans and t-shirts. They start adhering to, they get iPhones, they get laptops, they get PlayStations, they get vehicles, they get cars. They all start working. They all partake in the system. They all start moving like everyone else moves within the system, man. You don't, like, you have a few people, they might stick to, like some of Elam might still stick to their traditional garments, but not all the time. Same for like West Coast Jake and whatnot. Some people will stick to certain aspects of their culture, but more or less everyone, when they come here, they become a Greek. They become a Babylonian, a citizen of the West, and that's the same, and doubly so if they're born here. Because some, like, you have people that come here, they might be second generation, like their parents come over fresh, spoke the language, all that, and then second generation, a lot of cultures over here, they will not speak the language. Because some of them, like, you have like mainly the Chinese, Eastern Europeans, them guys will almost always speak the language. I don't think I've met anyone second generation that doesn't. But a lot of other cultures, they'll just integrate completely. And that's it. Everyone's in that same spirit, that coming all joining on the spirit of this place. So what? And everyone, 42, and everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathen agree according to the commandments of Jesus. Yeah, and that's why you have you had men like what's his name, EDL, the EDL man. What the hell's that guy's name?
Robinson.
Tommy Robinson, that's the one. Tommy Robinson, he was getting all upset, saying like, they're trying to do Sharia in the UK. Because why? The whole spirit of this place is everyone coming under that system of the West, man. The law system structure over here. That's why I try and bring out even to the script. It was meant to be adhering to the scriptures, but that's gone out the window. Now it's all about adhering to what Esau says. Says what? Verse 3. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, profane the Sabbath. And that's the same thing you've got going on now. They basically completely like the main religion that's got Jake bugged out is that so-called Christianity. Is that Christianity, that so-called white Jesus? That's what's bugged out Jake on a wider scale. That's been given that was set up from slavery, man. That whole system of just like, yo, go lose your mind in this. That's been set, and now it's self-perpetuating. And Esau knows, the heathen know, when you draw Israel away from their power, from following the laws, from moving righteously, then it's a wrap. It's open season. Jacob are basically dead at that point. Like the heathen have ain't gonna be like Jake ain't gonna be able to succeed over the heathen, man. The heathen can do whatever they love.
Quick one. Proverbs 21 and 16. The man that wandereth out the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. And that's basically what happened with Israel, man. Right? Because basically what you had is you had up until this time, you still had the nation of Israel still functioning. You had, but you had it under the providence or the state of or the providence of Rome, known as Judea, right? And it being known as Judea, basically they still had the Sanhedrin and all these different countries still. They were still where they were. But then when 70 AD happened, where it put an end to the nation of Israel, that set a ball in motion for the tribes to basically come, the 3 tribes or even 12 tribes that remain in the east of this world to basically start their migration over to the western hemisphere. Prophecy of being scattered and basically not knowing who they are, right? That's basically what happened, right? Now it's to the point where all humans, right? Christ is coming into this word. And that's why I read it again. Proverbs 21 and 16, it says, "The man that wandereth out the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead." And that's a fulfillment of Ezekiel, the 28, the Valley of Dry Bones, 37th chapter. Yeah, it's a fulfillment of Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, right? Where you basically had Revelations 11, 1 Thessalonians, I can't remember the book of, okay, you might as well read it.
2 Thessalonians 2 and 3, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition."
And that's go ahead.
The falling away needed to happen. And that's why it was through the Spirit. 70 AD, it was all through the Spirit. Because back then, the disciples, they desired to see the return of Yahushua. But hey, it was a hot minute. Because even, it's like back then, there were prophecies that weren't understood. When John received the revelation of Isle of Patmos, he didn't understand, he didn't understand a lot of the prophecies going into Revelation 9, World War I, the 3 woes, Revelation 20, what we read earlier, about the bottomless pit and the serpent being bound up. These things had to play out. We're still in a time before even those things had happened. And it's like now we're at a point where there's...
And to kind of put the seal on that, what did the Lord tell unto John the Revelator in the book of Revelation, the 10th chapter? He told him that you shall prophesy again for many kindreds, many tongues, and many nations. So that basically let you know that, look, you just received all these prophecies, and you're up in age, around however old he was, could have been younger than 96 years old, could have been older, all right? But basically, he was on the Isle of Patmos serving slavery, and he said that he's going to come back and prophesy to many nations.
Reincarnation again.
Yeah.
Because that's why this is a thing where it's the portion of souls they're coming back over and over again, playing these things out, which is why it's the punishment we're receiving, and that's why it says what you don't punish the son for the sins of the father, but then it says what you visit in the iniquity on the 3rd and 4th generation. Because why? Because they come back time and again to play these things, these judgments out. That's what we're in the midst of. That's why it's like you talk to it. If you go to just address it by what's gone down here, and that's the approach Esau takes. He's saying like, hey, look, it wasn't you that was slighted by that, even though these things have a knock-on effect over time anyway. Because as far as if you've got a family name behind you that means certain things, if you've got a history of certain wealth, properties, investments, whatever, companies, those things are going to have an impact. And that's why it's when it comes to recompense, it's not just going to be some money. It's not just going to be some land. It's not just going to be a few kids being given over. It's going to be everything. Everything's gonna have to be given over.
I agree. It's the book of Isaiah 14 and 21. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities.
Done.
I just read that precept with Malachi about wherever they yeah.
Yeah. Because that's how real it's gonna get. As far as for the balances, for the scales to be balanced, it's gonna have to end with Esau being done away with. And that's really that's how peak it is. That's how much how it's gonna go down. The Lord's gonna have it where all Esau's gain, everything, his whole rule. It says what? You've heaped treasure together for the last days. All the Esau's got, you go into these museums, Esau's got all kinds of precious metals, stones,
crown
etc. Yeah. The scepter, these things where it's like they're near enough priceless artifacts. These things are going to have to be returned. That's why. All this, and it's going to be taken, man. In fact, Daniel 7:18. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Yeah, it's going to be taken. That's what, and after the kingdom's set up, all the heathen are going to have to bring their tributes, man, to Jerusalem. Gates aren't going to be closed because all the goods are going to be coming in. And that's how the Lord had it set up. As what? The job of Jacob on earth is to basically be that manifestation of the Most High on earth and to rule in righteousness. That's why, and that comes with certain rewards, certain goods. And that's why it's like what we're going through now is to get an understanding of the fullness of wickedness, so then we can go out and operate in the fullness of righteousness, man. It's Esau's kingdom now. This is about taking wickedness to the extreme, and that's what we got going down. Wickedness rolling out to its absolute endpoint. And what does that result in? Complete and total insanity and madness. And that's really what it's come down to. It's come down to the point where everything is complete. Everyone's bugged out. It's everything's the world is being ground down to the point where it would become an uninhabitable, destroyed mess if Esau was allowed to run with it as he desires. And he even knows this. And he ain't even stopping. That's the level of insanity that we're dealing with. But that's why it's an example. And then it's going to be there to show why what wickedness, there's no profit in it.
I'll go precept. Alright. I'll start from so this is the book of Revelations 21 and 23. And the city had no need of sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of the Most High did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. It don't mean that, it means that basically the glory shall be seen. Light in the sense of making a light being, shine your light before men. The glory of the Lord is going to be seen in that day. Verse 24. And the nations of them which are saved shall be in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, but there shall be no night there. And they shall bring glory and honor of all the nations into it, and there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. Basically, he said the nations are going to be bringing their possessions. They're going to be bringing their daughters, right? So we can pop them and have them as concubines. Going to bring all their first fruits, all of their wealth, everything, and in turn, their hope will be to receive a blessing. Because what does it tell you in the book of Romans, the 9th chapter? A about the creature groaning for the revealing of the sons of the Most High, loosely paraphrased. So they're basically, without even knowing it, they're looking for us to come into rulership because they're going to receive a blessing when we move over as well. What was you reading? What were you going back to? I was going to go back to Romans 2. You just read about Thessalonians. Actually, I was going to read Habakkuk. It's a book of Habakkuk. It's a book of Habakkuk 1 and 5. Behold ye among the heathen. Behold ye among the heathen, and regard and wonder marvelously. For I will work a work in your days which ye will not believe, though it be told you. Right? That work is basically what? It's a bringing in of those that have been scattered abroad into the congregation of the children of Israel. Right? That's why when you go back in the prophecy I was outlined in the book of Deuteronomy 28 chapter, it told you about the scattering of the children of Israel. And that was really manifest to a great degree when it happened throughout the course of history. There's many different accounts you can go into the word and you can basically see that happened. But that really happened in its fullness when the Romans put an end to the state of Judea, right? When they basically X'd out and said, no more we're going to deal with this because they raised up and basically rebel against their rulership, so to speak. Basically fulfilling the prophecy of what the Lord spoke in the book of Matthew, all right? So when that happened, basically what happened, you had tribes basically go every which way to the wind of the earth, north, east, south, west, and they basically mingled with the various nations, and they became likened unto the heathen. So that's why now through this word, his men have been sent forth to basically gather on the elect. All right. And let me quickly read a precept on that. We'll go to the book of Matthew, the 13th chapter. Down in let me read this. Okay, this is the book of Matthew 13 and 47. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to the shore and sat down and gathered the good into vessels and cast them by the way. So shall it be at the end of the world. Angels shall come forth and sever the wicked from the just, alright? And shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. So basically, on the prophets of Yahweh, Shem, Shai, Shem, they've been appointed forth to basically speak this word. And basically that's why it says in the book of John, what did he say? I mentioned it last week. Try them by the truth. No. It's got something to say. But I've got scriptures right now. Try them by the faith. It's lucky. I can't. If you know in scripture, I'll grab it. It's real good. But it says so Matthew 13. And I'll just read to the point again. So it says, Matthew 13 and 49, so shall it be at the end of the world. The angels shall come forth and sever the wicked from among the just. But right now we're basically giving out the word, right? We're basically trying to right, in hopes that we wake up those of the elect and then prepare for when the Son of Man makes his appearance. Right? Yeah, that's cool.
So how is it founded? Yes, it's me. That's what you think. Yes, more like
It's that one. John 17 and 17. It's lucky if you've got something. Well, I'm just reading that loud. problem. I'm in my
Okay.
I'm trying to remember.
Psalms 149 and 5. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishment upon the people, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron,